It's 2024, and there are more ways than you can even imagine how big data is in your life every day. Think about your Uber that you just ordered during rush hour with a surge pricing. It's calculating how many people are around supply, and it's doing it pretty darn quickly to get the right answer. So let's go back 60 years to airlines in the 1960s. Pricing, if you didn't know, changed a lot slower 60 years ago. The 60s is when the airline industry first introduced automated ticket booking, which is done by computers, no more pen and paper. And within 20 years, they started implementing algorithms that can predict what the supply demand would be, and as a result, what the value of that should be squeezed out. And these algorithms were slow. They had to be compiled manually after someone manually looked at the data to figure out what algorithm there was to write. So, as a result, your pricing on your airline seat may be changed once a week. Because how would you process all of those new airline ticket sales and all that data relevant to how many people are on the flight? What did you get per seat on the flight? What was the loss on the flight? None of that was possible. Now let's get into the 90s and the 2000s, the internet. Even then, the data wasn't fast enough. Only at this point in time, prices updated 2 times a week. If I remember correctly, Sunday is when all the data was downloaded. On Monday, it was all uploaded. And by end of day Tuesday, it was analyzed for price changes by Wednesday. And then the same thing would happen by Saturday to go pricing for the next Monday. Very tedious. But why did it take that long? It actually wasn't the human element reviewing the data. It was the element of uploading and transferring data. The billions or trillions of rows of data over time of history of updating prices, and then now factor in the speed of computers, that is why you end up with the ability to do it 2 times a week. Now, obviously, 2024, we have Uber, like I mentioned, we have Lyft, we have, I think even Wendy's is doing surge pricing now in supply and demand. So it's everywhere. Big data drives economic value. The faster data can move, the faster money can be made. And consequently, the more money that is made. So, why am I going all over this? Well, there's a company called SalesForce, if you haven't heard of them. They're the OG of the CRMs. They actually did a good job, still in business, innovating, and aren't being left in the dust like a lot of other tech companies, SaaS companies. So they were diversifying. CRMs are boring. CRMs have been around for better half of 15 years, and they're cookie cutter. It's a template. It's not fancy. It's old. Now, how are businesses keeping in business? Well, businesses with money want to develop their own AI. They don't want to rely on the likes of OpenAI, ChatGPT, BART. I think Elon Musk has one now too. I don't remember what it's called. But by having all these different AIs, they're saving money and they're building their own proprietary formula. What many people, and I did not know this 3 years ago when I started getting very well versed in this, is getting data to work with one another. The data isn't the magic. I only just learned this a couple years ago. It's the network, the visualization, the ability for a layperson in your enterprise to take this data that a traditional math or statistic or computer nerd would have to do themselves, where Karen in HR can do it to figure out retention of clientele of employees. So why is it worth $11 billion, and how does that transform enterprise AI forever? So this has been in the works. If I can get my tab to go, yeah. So here we see over the last, I think I published this on the 17th when I recorded this. I'm only just editing it and publishing it now. So about a week, um, they are close to buying a company that has an algorithm, $11 billion. And the question is, why? Well, big data management is why. So I'm going to go over what big data management is. I'll go over a little bit what SalesForce is, which I imagine most people watching this video would know, but I'll still go over it. What is Informatica? That's the exciting one that you guys probably do not know. And as I was touching on before, what is Salesforce big problem as of modern day? What is the big data solution? And just in summary of how this makes you money. So, what is big data management? In the simplest of terms, it's integrating, storing, and processing data in your business operations. And as I mentioned before about Karen up in HR, Karen doesn't know how to write Python script in their warehouse to extract the data. So we, as data science and companies, need to create fast ways, not just a way for it to be visualized. We need to make it instant, because what good is getting an Uber ride when someone wants an Uber, but then it takes 10 minutes to calculate the cost? I would never order the Uber if it took 10 minutes. Neither would you probably. And why does this work? Well, visualization would never work if it wasn't for having cloud architecture, the security of the data, and the overall warehousing of the data. All of this, if any of these are missing, you're going to have problems. Obviously, we know what cloud is. I mean, warehousing, we can assume is how you store things. Security is one people don't think of, though. Because when you want your cloud and your data visualization to pair together, it needs to pull the data quickly, which means it would need to have good security to be pre-written to let it pull it quickly. So in other words, if you suck at your security, eventually someone will probably hack into your cloud, because the data visualization gives it instantaneous access. Because unfortunately, that is computers all the way from the start. They were meant to share information. So it's kind of boring, but now we'll tie it to something that might make some more sense. So as mentioned before, Salesforce, cloud-based CRM. If you know about this, just skip forward a couple minutes. And Informatica, which is the coolest thing in the world, in my opinion, that no one understands. But imagine now that you throw this in between and you can have data from an iPhone, data from your microphone, from your Android, data from someone's profile online, tying it all together pretty fast. And that is a science to it. That isn't an art. It's literally all calculations and whatnot. So the calculations all are for increasing the neural network speed. How fast does your brain go? If you're on Jeopardy, do you buzz the buzzer first, or are you going to be left in the wind? Like Salesforce, we did not realize that when we start collecting billions and billions and billions of rows of data, and as the data improves, for instance, I'm Brian, you know I'm 29, but maybe you learn that I was recruited by the New York Yankees. And we want to now add professional sports player as a column within the cloud. You can't do that. you have to, in simplest of terms, write equations to make it work still after making that change. And when you make a change, now you're adding more code. So now it's your job or our job to optimize the code and compress it so your brain can go fast again. So the result of not having this is not having the ability to manage complex data. If you don't have this, you're going to find yourself with a whole lot of data, but then thousands of years of time, of Earth time, filtering through it because it's just mathematically impossible to do with the speed. So we were just mentioning a few seconds ago about the mathematics, the calculations, all of the nonsensical stuff that really our teachers never told us would actually matter in life. So think of your CSV, your regular Excel sheet. You have columns, 1. You now have sheets, 2. You now have tables, 3. So anytime you want to change any bit of that data, you're going to have to basically rewrite your equations every single time, because every time you add new types of data, whether it's from another source or from just another informational character, or maybe the iOS app on your phone, the next version of the phone has a new feature you can track about the user. How do you now get that old info about the same user into the old data set? And that's where all this nonsense stuff comes up. So if anyone asks you how it works, this is your answer. Think about what actually makes this type of stuff work. And it's the indexing is what it comes down to. Almost like having a temporary memory facility, short-term memory, where you're able to access stuff a bit faster. And Salesforce's entire new business model is going to be to add these features, almost to be a back-end API to potentially other CRMs. Salesforce is really trying to diversify themselves with the competitive market. I mean, there's a lot of other companies. Look at Go High Level. It's a white label, but it's taking market share to some degree. And in my opinion, it would catch up to Salesforce. But with billions of dollars, Salesforce does have the ability to go off and separate themselves a bit. Zoho, I would say, is their only threat. But basically, if you're able to have a fast computer, good algorithms, you're now able to produce results faster. And I'll actually tie it to financial stock market, right? Why do people buy the $10,000 Mac computer? Because a lot of them are in finance. They need to have the instant data updates because, again, they're in finance. Time is money. Every millisecond of savings is billions of dollars. So if you ever want to know where any future is going for consumer products, always look at finance, what the stock market's doing for their technology, I should say. What does any of that actually mean? And if you want to know the real sciencey term, it's called a E2L tool. And that allows the facilitation of the data set integrations between things like Databricks, Snowflake, SAP. There's countless other Microsoft Azure. The caveat is you need a whole IT team. I mean, this is not an out-of-the-box tool. which is what I find a lot of people are running into when they come to me with a billion rows of data they want to sell. I know it's in there, man. I just got to query it in Python. And I'm sure with a visualization system, I could sell it. And that's the point. That the product of the future is never going to be the data. Because data can be duplicated, repeated. There's value, but it's limited. Giving people the tool to be able to sell the data or use the data and basically just create an economic benefit from it, that's where the money's at. I mean, imagine like, it's like an Amazon, but it's all integrated in one core place. And consequently, data trades faster, money trades faster. I mean, just look at the economics. If money moves through a society faster, the dollar turns over faster, more money is made. Tie it to data. If you should be charging people more money for that flight to Miami because it's spring break and you're booking last second, that is what a company's meant to do. So why is big data management and cloud infrastructure really a requirement in the business world 2024? And the first reason is a lot of people end up getting their data scenario right, but it's not elastic to the point where you can keep growing it. Where, okay, if something was to change tomorrow, would we be okay and be able to operate the next day? Or would we be basically shut down for the time being? Being able to access the data anywhere, not in the back of a server room, not with Dan, the IT guy, but from your phone, from your computer, from your email. Really, that's why data is worth money, because looking at it, using it, is what creates the value. And that all ties into, obviously, the speed of making this type of accessibility being fast, and at the same time not stifling the scalability. Making it so it's profitable, that's the fun part. So the first three is easy to do. Now the fourth part's about making it so it makes money, meaning you're not over optimized for your servers where you're spending too much money on stuff you don't even need. As I said, it's a science, not being able to add more space when needed, but maybe being able to throttle people or compress people using abusive amounts of data. This is the world of the variables that take into effect when trying to predict the management of one of these systems. And really, the innovation. Would Uber exist if it wasn't for big data management? I would tend to believe no, because the airlines couldn't do the pricing they did, and we know they got there first. So now a good question is to be, does big data extract negative value out of consumers and put a net negative on society? Something to think of. Money, profit, speed of capital. That is why SalesForce is probably going to pay $11 billion for an algorithm, a data warehousing company. Really not much, in my opinion. But the more fascinating part is that this is one of the only companies that do what they do really well. SalesForce just took them off the market, buying them out entirely. What implications does this leave in the technology market? There's clearly a void right now if this deal finalizes, because everybody will have this problem. Everybody that wants to do anything with data, whether it's AI call centers or chat bots or predictive analysis for your inventory system, it's always going to be an issue. Data is only growing. It's not getting smaller. So the scientists and engineers of the world need to figure out how to do that, but more efficiently. And I would say it starts with this. So big data management, cloud storage, drives data commerce. That by having the ability to work big data in an enterprise level way, you're able to make a better business strategy and understand your marketing and the actual prospect of you're trying to work with, or your industry as a whole, your internal organization. Also, when you're able to give your customers information that looks nice and pretty in visualization, they're going to be more happy. Customers want to feel like they got something. Sending them a CSV doesn't feel good, but sending them, a whole welcome packet with their information, detailed out about the history of what they did with us, and they can recall it, they might be more like, more inclined to say, these guys care. They put together an entire package. It took time, a lot of personalization that makes me feel like this company knows a thing or two about me. Just think about when you get a reward on your local fast food place when you haven't visited there in a month. They're like, yo, we got you a free sundae if you buy that milkshake. Well, I like sundaes and milkshakes because I've been buying that for like the last 5 years. So it's almost like a nostalgia in a way. Being able to be there right at the right time in the right place. You know what? You haven't come to Wawa in a while. I think you need a free milkshake. So, and that leads into Foster's innovative business models. I wasn't even looking at this. Exactly. So you want a milkshake? You haven't come to my store? Well, maybe I'll offer you 50 cents off your gallon of gas because you're more inclined to buy gas than milkshakes. And if we want to get another level deeper, that Wawa app on your phone tracks everywhere you go. So when you get closer to Wawa, maybe you get a push notification that, hey, we'll give you a free sundae. So next time you got those notifications, just know they know where you are and who you are, what you do. They know everything. Everything. So maybe they don't care as much as we think they do. Give me their comments below. I'll be very fascinated to answer them in the next video. I enjoy this engagement. Click subscribe. We're going to be coming up with these stories every week. Business innovation and basically how big data translates into normal words that an average person can understand, visualize, and make sense of. So subscribe.